Stop talking about comic books or I'll kill you. I don't care if the Hulk could defeat the Man of Steel.
Hey there, comic fans. Bullseye Bob here, and welcome to Everything Comics. And of course, this is another episode of Having Comics with My Coffee, and this is episode number 19. And as you may notice, there are some differences than normal. I am not in a coffee shop, and it is not Saturday. So this last Saturday, I was pretty sick, and so I didn't get a chance to be able to film my normal show at the Refuge Coffee House, which is where I normally like to film this. And so I stayed at home, and especially with the sickness scare that's going on out there, I didn't want to take any chances. So I hunkered down, stayed at home, and but I gotta tell you, I missed you guys, and I wanted to take the opportunity to be able to film the episode anyway, because there were a lot of great comics that came out this week, and I just love dropping new content. So here we go. So for those of you who don't want to hear the announcements, down inside of the comments, there's going to be a timestamp where the reviews begin if you want to jump straight to that. I know there were a couple of people who mentioned that some of the announcements are long, and they said, get on with the show. And so for those of you who don't want to hear the announcements, you can go there, and the reviews start somewhere in the midst of it. Just go ahead and click on that particular timestamp. And so my first announcement is basically this next Saturday, March 21st, at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, we are having another roundtable discussion with the Portland Comics crew. That's right. Bueller from Comics with Bueller, Sam from Sam's Tangled Web, Damien from Sleepy Reader 666, and myself, Bullseye Bob, and maybe even Hack will be there with us. Don't know yet. We're still waiting to hear on that. But in the meantime, this time it'll be on Sam's Tangled Web, so definitely, if you're not subscribed to Sam's Tangled Web, go to his channel, subscribe, but definitely check us out this Saturday night. It's going to be awesome. Can't wait. This time we're going to discuss our favorite heroes and talk about the decades that they came from, or which era that we like our particular comic characters the best. I always have a lot of fun just hanging out with these guys talking comics, and of course we are very fortunate that we all live near each other, and so I'm really looking forward to being able to get together with them and just hanging out. So my next announcement is my giveaway. I'm coming up on 1,000 subscribers. I've gotten to this place very quickly. I just surpassed 800. Man, I can't believe it. Already 800 subscribers. Thank you very much for everybody who has subscribed to the channel. I really enjoy interacting with you. I enjoy your support. So I just wanted to say thank you very much. But I'm going to come up on 1,000 subscribers here very quickly. And so I'm having a giveaway. And I've mentioned before, Bueller and Sam and I went to the image signing over at I Like Comics in Vancouver. And we had some of the great creators, 6 of them that are the image executives, all sign a poster that was especially made just for that day. So Todd McFarlane, Robert Kirkman, Mark Silvestri, Jim Valentino. I mean, there were so many great creators there. They all signed it. And so I have this poster. I'll put a graphic up on the screen so you can see it. And if you are subscribed to the channel and you leave a comment about my coffee and comics video, you're entered to go ahead and win that. And as soon as we hit the 1,000 subscriber mark, we'll go ahead and announce that winner. I also have some CDs from Ookla the Mock, who does the theme song of the show, and I'll be giving away those CDs along with a couple of other things that'll be announced later, but I'll definitely make it worth your while. And but I just want to say it's my way of being able to say thank you and helping me get to the 1,000 subscriber mark. Next, we have this Thursday. Again, I just want to remind everybody there will be no weekly rundown show. Of course, the weekly rundown is my newer show where Bueller and I get together and we talk about the latest in pop culture news, mostly comic book, movie, and TV news. But anything goes, anything that has to do with comic book news or anything in pop culture that is relevant, that is popping, we're going to talk about it, discuss it, and give you our views on it. And so stay tuned for that. So the following Thursday, not this Thursday, but the following Thursday, and please go ahead and check us out because that's a lot of fun. And the last thing is the Washington State SummerCon. This June 20th and 21st. As of right now, the Washington State Summer Con is still on, barring that doesn't get postponed or pushed back. Bueller, Sam, Damien, and I, all four of the Portland Comics crew, will be there. If you haven't checked out the lineup, go check it out. It's an amazing lineup, and I really hope nothing pushes that back. I think we're in that place of danger where MegaCon may get canceled after the new announcement by the CDC today, but we'll see. I just am not holding out a lot of faith that that's going to go forward. I just hope they postpone it so that we can go to it. But definitely, as this thing unfolds, as it has been, I think some of the events that are going to be happening in the next month probably won't be happening, but definitely Washington State SummerCon in June. I'm looking forward to that not being moved. And if you guys are going to be there, let us know. We'd love to meet you. And but as this unfolds, we'll have more announcements about that going forward. So here, that's it. That's the announcement, folks. Again, sorry about not dropping on Saturday, but I had to take care of myself, and I was really sick. So, but I'm feeling much better now. Working from home for the next couple of weeks. So we're going to stay safe. We're going to stay healthy, and definitely we'll still be bringing you the normal comic book content that we normally do here. So let's go ahead and get on with the show. So if you're new to the channel and you haven't watched my Coffee and Comics videos before, I have a rating system. I call it the Daredevil rating system. As you can see, I'm a huge fan of Daredevil. You can see in the background here. And so he has 2 fighting sticks. So if I like a comic book, if I like what's going on inside, I'll give it 2 sticks up if I like it. If I'm on the fence about it, like, I like it, but there's some things wrong with it, I may give it a stick up and a stick down, right? And if I didn't like the comic, or if it just didn't grab me, I'll give it 2 sticks down. And on each of those, you'll see a graphic on the screen. You'll see Daredevil up on the screen representing that rating. And so that's what those graphics are about. And so without further ado, let's get into our comics for this week. Okay, so we have Flash, number 751. This is a great comic book. This, of course, is written by Joshua Williamson, art by Christian Doucet, and this takes place directly after the Giant Size 750. This is The Flash Age, Part 2. I got to tell you, The Flash has been one of DC's more consistent books. Joshua Williamson has been killing it with the writing. I really am loving the story. They got a brand new villain called Paradox. I love the way he looks. I love the origin of the character. Basically, he was created from Barry Allen's mistakes. Flashpoint and all these different things created time paradoxes, and in his particular case, he has been going throughout time, deteriorating and then growing into this thing that is a paradox in time, and now he wants Barry Allen to pay. And so we see his appearance inside of Flash 750, and Godspeed shows up, and it seems like Godspeed is being controlled by Paradox. So this fight is about to ensue. And so that's where we start off in this comic book, is we have Flash going up against Godspeed, and they're fighting it out, and basically wool's being pulled over our eyes. Godspeed turns and basically says, "Don't you remember I've always told you can trust me?" And he's there to actually help Flash take down Paradox. And so they turn and they go up against this guy. And I gotta tell you, this new villain I'm really excited about. He turns and he just wipes out Godspeed really quickly, and then he takes out the Flash. And after he takes out the Flash, he uses this immense amount of power, turns it on Barry, and completely disintegrates him. I was like, whoa, it was really, really cool. And so I'm thinking, did he just kill Barry? But you go to the next page and he didn't kill Barry. Barry has actually been pushed into either an alternate reality or a different timeline, but it's kind of this not a wooded area, but like a grassland area with a tree in it. It looks very pristine, very peaceful. And who's there? His mother. And if you know anything about Barry Allen, that's the driving force of his life, was the death of his mother. And here she is alive, standing in front of him. That's kind of where they end the book. Awesome stuff. I was very excited about reading this. The action was great. The artwork was great. Coloring was, I consider subpar. It didn't really grab me, but the writing is just so well done. And here we are with Barry faced with the thing that is his driving force, his mother, and she's alive. And so I can't wait to see the next issue. If you haven't been reading The Flash, you should definitely be reading this one. I give this one 2 sticks up. And so for our next one on the list, this one comes from Marvel Comics, and this is Thor, number 4. And I don't know if you've been reading this one, but if you haven't been, you should be. This, of course, is written by the great Donny Cates, Sir Cates, and the artwork is by Nick Klein. Now, I got to tell you, the artwork inside of this is not the normal artwork that I would go for, but it really fits this comic book. It's kind of a cross between some line work and maybe some watercolor painting, and then I can see some marker work in there as well. And the mix of it creates this kind of whimsical feeling as you're going through this cosmic story, and it really, really works well. And so, like I said, normally I wouldn't go for that type of artwork, but I think it fits for this story, and I'm really enjoying it. And so basically, this is going to be a little more in-depth. And like I said, we're going spoilery inside of this because it is Monday now. If you guys haven't read your comics, you should have read them by now. So if you haven't read the comic books and you don't want these to be spoiled, then I would definitely, turn this off and come back later and watch it. Okay, so here we go. Definitely as we start this book, we find the tree Yggdrasil, I think that's what it's called. I don't know, it's kind of a weird spelling, but it's the tree that basically connects all of the 9 realms, that Asgard's in control of. The roots connect all the realms. And we see that the Black Winter is coming and the tree is starting to rot. So basically it's symbolizing everything's falling apart. And in the midst of that, we come up on where we left off in the last book, which is Sif showing up, and there's this showdown that's going to happen between her and Thor. And basically the reason why she shows up is because she's there for 2 reasons. She's going to take Beta Ray Bill back to Asgard, because of course last issue Thor and Beta Ray Bill fought it out, and because of where Thor is at, he basically handed him his butt. But in this particular case, Sif is going to take him back to Asgard to protect him. And then the second thing she's there for is to basically let Thor know that he's being an ass, that he needs to stop trying to worry about whether or not he's worthy enough to take on his father's role. He's not his father. He's actually better than that, and he should get his butt in gear. That's basically what she's there for. And then in the midst of this, you have the Galactus, who's getting impatient because he knows the Black Winter's coming, but he's also still hungering. And so they go on this trek to go devour worlds to give Galactus more power with which to face the Black Winter. And so they go to 4 different worlds. In the first 3, they do the same thing they've done in the last few books. They've been able to evacuate all life off of the planet so that Galactus can devour the planet without killing off the population of that planet. Except in this particular case, the last planet, while they're in the midst of evacuation, Galactus comes and starts sucking the life out of the planet, which really pisses Thor off. And basically, he tells them, I can't wait anymore. And they have to agree to disagree. And he basically says, in the midst of all this, I'm going to let you go, but we're going to have words about this later. So they agree that they'll fight later, basically. And so he devours the planet, and then right there, the Black Winter's there. So, I mean, this is happening now, folks. We're going to see this whole showdown with this world-ending event happen in the next issue number 5. So I'm really on board with it. The last thing that I want to mention in this book that was really, really cool is that when Thor faces off against Sif, he throws Mjolnir at her, and she uses the Bifrost, the Rainbow Bridge, to basically stop Mjolnir and send it to, what's it called? The land of the Frost Giants, Jotunheim. She sends it to Jotunheim, where Loki's at, because of course Loki's the king of the Frost Giants, right? And while all this stuff is going on with Sif and Galactus and Thor, Loki sees the hammer and is kind of puzzled that it's there and wonders if the whole thing about the person being able to lift the hammer has to be worthy, if that's still in play. And so he goes and tries it out, and lo and behold, Loki's able to pick up the hammer. And then the hammer flies out of his hand because you know Thor is bringing it back to him. And so we have this interesting thing that is going to play out later, where Loki can actually pick up Mjolnir now. I think this is genius writing by Donny Cates. I really had a lot of fun with this with this issue, and I can't wait for what he does next. If you're not reading it, folks, you need to be, because this is great comic book stuff. I give this one 2 sticks up, way high. Okay, and so for our next book, we have Hawkeye, Freefall number 4. Again, this one's from Marvel Comics. This one is written by Matthew Rosenberg, and the artwork is by Otto Schmidt. Now, the best thing about this book is the dialogue and the hijinks, and I think that's kind of been running through the whole thing. Some of the funniest dialogue that happens with Clint Barton, you know, Hawkeye, and some of the other characters that he interacts with, and then the hijinks of this whole thing going on with him and Ronin, and there's this other villain called the Hood. And so that's the best thing about this book. And so where we start off with is Clint Barton, who's Hawkeye, and he is Ronin, and basically nobody knows that he's Ronin, and so he's trying to play that off while everybody's actually looking for Ronin. And most people are coming after him because they know that he used to be Ronin, and he's basically telling them no, but we find out that he is Ronin, and it just goes back and forth with this kind of whole thing, and you're kind of confused as to what's really going on. Then you find out that there's a robot who looks just like Clint, who is also Ronin, who shows up at this gathering of superheroes that are supposed to get together to go take out who else? Ronin. And so it's kind of confusing, but a lot of fun at the same time, because at this particular point, he doesn't want those superheroes to see the robot. So he basically kills the robot and sinks it to the bottom of the river, only to have to face off against Spider-Man, who whoops his butt. It's so funny. And then takes his mask off. And so Spider-Man's like, what the hell are you doing? And he makes him promise. He's like, you know, just because we're such good friends, you can't tell anybody. So Peter Parker, he agrees to it. And then Bullseye shows up. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. And it's kind of gone back and forth a bunch of times. I don't know if I could say that it's gotten old. It is a lot of fun. I like the character work. I like the dialogue. But they need to get to the point, is what I'm trying to say. And so, anyway, it's been a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun reading it. If you're not reading it, definitely check it out. You'll have fun. But it's kind of confusing when it comes to the issue of Hawkeye, Ronin, Ronin, Hawkeye, and who's who. But in the end, I guarantee you it's a good read. So I do give it 2 sticks up, but they got to go somewhere with the next issue. That's all I got to say. And up next, we have The Batman's Grave, issue number 6. This one, of course, is written by Warren Ellis, and the artwork is by Brian Hitch, and the colors are by Alex Sinclair. Now, I don't remember if Alex Sinclair has been on this book the whole time, but I gotta say that there was a point in this run where the colors were amazing. Some of the blues that were used were just unreal. And this book was kind of blasé, and so I don't know if Sinclair has been on the book the whole time, but the color was definitely not up to par with what the earlier part of the run was, so I was kind of confused by that. I do love Alex Sinclair. I think he's one of the better colorists out there. He's definitely one of the bigger names, but the colors in this one just didn't grab me. But this issue follows the same format as the previous 5. We got an amazing fight scene, multiple fight scenes actually, brutal, and then we have some detective work by Batman. And I think the coolest thing about this book is that the action starts you off in Arkham Asylum. He's there with Commissioner Gordon, and as they're going through Arkham Asylum, it really reminded me of playing the Arkham games. They're going through hallways, they're fighting guys coming out of the woodwork, and it's glorious. I had so much fun reading that part of it. And then you get to the crux of when this huge group is about to face off against Batman, and then they cut to a scene on top of a building, and I was kind of confused by it because it just kind of cut from the action to this interaction between him and Commissioner Gordon, and I started to realize that one of the things that this book suffers from is I don't remember what the original plot was. And I know Warren Ellis is a good writer, and I really enjoy his stuff, but I really think that I would probably enjoy this more after it's collected in a trade, because I just don't remember what the main plot thread was anymore. And when they got to that part, it may have been important, but I was lost. And that's kind of weird to say when the book is so good. So because of that, I feel that it really suffers from that, and so I can't give it 2 sticks up. I think that when you get to that level of writing of Warren Ellis and these playthroughs that they normally do, I think you shouldn't lose the main thread, and that's what I've done on this book. So I give it a stick up and a stick down. I will have to say that I have a feeling maybe this story was all written out. It's not being written out month to month, and for whatever reason, because it is going month to month, it's very hard to keep the main thread of what's going on. So anyway, stick up and a stick down. Let me know what you think about this. I wanted to give it 2 sticks up because I was enjoying it until I got to that point. So there you have it, folks. And by the way, before we go on to the next book, I didn't talk about the coffee I'm drinking. And since I'm home, I'm just having regular black coffee. Black, no sweetener, just the way I like it in the morning. And that's what I'm drinking. So I'm having some coffee with you, talking about comics. And I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the coffee I was having. So cheers, here you go. Yeah. All right, so our next book is from Image Comics. It's Decorum, #1. This is a book that I've been really waiting for. This is written by Jonathan Hickman, and the artwork is by Mike Huddleston. Now, this book has all the earmarks of a Jonathan Hickman book. It's got maps, it's got background info, it's got diagrams. I mean, it's got all kinds of, all the earmarks that Jonathan Hickman puts inside of his book. It's definitely world building, and nobody does it better than Jonathan Hickman. Sometimes I think, though, that it would be better used inside of a novel. I was like, give this guy a novel to write, because sometimes I think inside of a comic book, it just doesn't work. There's so much detail that goes into it, and I think he does a really good job in getting us there, but sometimes there's more information than you actually need, and it doesn't actually help the story. And I think this book, in a certain way, kind of suffers from that, because there was a lot of information given inside of this book about the world and about how it works that didn't come to play in the story at all, and I'm not so sure I'll remember all that when the next book comes out, and I may have to go back and reread this. That's how complex it is. But having said that, I really enjoyed this issue. It's cut up into separate stories inside of the book, and I think the first story suffers from that very thing that I'm talking about, because it was completely disconnected from the rest. And but as the story went along, you kind of got into this thing happening with a character who's a female, and she has been tasked up to carry this box onto this world, and she's going to get paid for it. And not only is she going to get paid, but she's going to get paid 3 times as much, which means there's probably more danger in the job than she's used to. And because of the fact that she is desperate and needs money, she takes the job. And so she gets to this place, and as she gets there, the person that she's delivering it to is kind of somebody who works in the underworld. And the governments are using his influence in that underworld so that they can be there. Because I guess there's some directive that makes it so that they can't directly affect this particular world. So they're using somebody from the underworld, or like a crime syndicate, to basically do their bidding and their will in this place. And I guess this guy did something wrong, because as she shows up to deliver the package, there's this other female that shows up who basically tells him that he's in trouble. And the package that's been delivered actually has a weapon inside of it, which she uses to take out everybody inside the room. It was glorious. This action scene is really cool. She basically lets him know in no uncertain terms that he's going to be punished. She takes out every single one of his henchmen, and in the very end, she just completely demolishes this guy. Gruesome scene. I mean, just splatters him everywhere. And then she turns to the girl who delivered the package, and basically says, what are we going to do about you? And I don't think she's going to take the girl out. I think the girl may be her protege, or she's going to use her in some other way. But it was really cool how this all played out, and I can't wait for the next issue. One of the things I've heard about is people complaining about the artwork, how there was some scenes that were in color and some scenes that were kind of in black and white, and they didn't like that. I think it really worked well in this book. It was glorious. It was beautiful. And so I don't think it suffers at all from that going back and forth. I really gave it mood and tone in the places that it needed to, and I think that helped, in the end, bring the vehicle of this book to what it's going to be. So if you haven't read it yet, definitely check it out. Be prepared for more reading than you're normally going to read, because this is, number one, it's a thicker book, and it's got all this background information on the world. Definitely, it's already, I think, a masterpiece. It's not my pick of the week, but I'll tell you what, it was an awesome read. Check it out. I give it 2 sticks up. Okay, and my next book. This one is also from Marvel Comics. And this is Venom, number 24. And this, of course, is part 4 of the Venom Island storyline. There's another book written by Donny Cates. And, of course, the artwork inside of this is done by Mark Bagley. And I'll have to say, I'll talk about the artwork here in just a minute. It starts you off in a hospital where Eddie Brock is waking up in a hospital bed. And he's got his hand has been cut off, as we saw in the last book. And then he basically comes to this news that Dylan no longer will be able to live with him. Cap comes and basically tells him that he's been asleep for months, and they heard about the living situation and all the problems that had come because of the Carnage incident and Null, and they don't think that Dylan is fit to live with them. And this really sends him into this emotional panic. It was really cool, really heartfelt, but really we find out that that's all in his head, because Carnage is basically making him have this nightmare. And it's really cool how it unfolds. I gotta say, that's where the artwork comes in. Mark Bagley, this is probably some of the best work I've seen by Mark Bagley in a long time. So well done. The close-up of Cletus Cassidy as he's talking about what he's doing and how the position that he has him in while he's in this hospital bed, that he's basically his, was just chilling. The artwork on it is just so well done. And like I said, I haven't really seen Mark Bagley do artwork like this in a long time, maybe never. This is really good, really amazing stuff. Anyway, I digress. Basically, what ends up happening is that while that's going on, we find out that Dylan, through him having a piece of that Carnage symbiote and this interaction with Null, that he has the ability to basically communicate with the Venom symbiote. And he has this portal that's open, he walks through it, and he finds the Venom symbiote, and he kind of melds with it, and now he's going to go save his dad. Full spoiler alert here. I'll just tell you what ends up happening. If you ever read the Old Man Logan series, the original series, and you saw the T-Rex that was completely venomized, that's what Dylan shows up in, a full-on Venom T-Rex saying, "Leave my dad alone." And you see Carnage with this look on his face like, oh shit. So great. So fun, so much fun. The writing is just really well done. It's really entertaining. Artwork is incredible. I give this one 2 sticks up, way high. If you haven't been reading this, and this is another one you've got to be reading, it is very well done. Check it out, guys. All right. So now we come to my pick of the week. And this book is from Image Comics, and it's Stealth, number 1. I got to tell you, this book was a huge surprise, and I loved every second of it. This is written by Mike Costa, and the art is by Nate Bellegrade, I think his name is. Great stuff. So first of all, I didn't know it in the beginning, but this is not, I guess, original. I guess originally there was a one-shot that was done by Robert Kirkman and Mark Silvestri. And so basically this is a 6-part miniseries of that original Stealth story. I don't know if that original story had the earmarks of what's inside of this, but this book surprised the heck out of me. It basically starts off with this character named Tony, and he kind of reminds me of a cross between Peter Parker and if you ever saw the Daredevil Netflix story, the Ben Urich character. I remember Ben Urich, he had a wife that had Alzheimer's, and he was a reporter, but he wasn't able to report on what he wanted to report on. He had to do things like art festivals and things that had no bearing on his ability as a journalist. He's used to doing in-depth stories on, like, corruption and things like that. And so he's stuck in this place that he just doesn't want to be. And that's what this character Tony's like. He has the earmarks of that Ben Urich character, and then he also it kind of feels like Peter Parker. He's missing deadlines, and he's in this place because that's what happens to a superhero who tries to hold down a job. And that's what it gives you the feel of. And so basically you find out in the very beginning that he's missing deadlines. He goes home and he has this interaction with his father, and his father has dementia. And, basically he has a conversation to let his dad know that here lately he's been noticing he's been having a lot of episodes of confusion, and the dad doesn't want to hear about it, and he drops this bottle of orange juice, and you can feel the tension between Tony and his dad, where his dad doesn't want to hear about it, and Tony is very concerned, but he's got this whole thing that he still has to deal with, which is life. And then you cut to the character you see here, Stealth, right, in the full-on armor, and the first line that you see is, "This is freedom." So the impression that you get is that in the midst of all this normal life stuff going on, hopping into the suit is giving him freedom. And he goes out, he fights some crime, knocks out some bad guys brutally. I mean, it's brutal. And then he goes back to some life things that happen. And then there's another scene where he goes back out, and there's this whole thing that happens where he's taking out some bad guys. The cops show up, and it looks like he accidentally hurts some of the police officers. And so now the police officers are blaming him, and they're coming after him. And it cuts to his house, and he's on his porch, and he's like, "Oh, what a night." And so it gives you the impression that he just came from this battle. This scene where the cops are after him, and he walks in the house, and the first thing that happens is through the window, here comes his dad in the stealth uniform. It wasn't him this whole time. It's his dad who's the superhero, and he's got dementia, and he doesn't even realize that he hurt the cops, and he's kind of busted up. And this interaction that he now has with his son, he doesn't even recognize his son. He beats him to a bloody pulp. The twist on this, to have his dad have dementia and be a superhero at the same time, gave me chills. I wasn't expecting it. It was an amazing twist. It was something that made me very hopeful. Here's a superhero story that's unlike any superhero story I've ever read, and I'm on board for it. I definitely give this one high praise. The artwork was good. The writing was very well done. It definitely had me surprised at the twist. And because of the content of what it is and dealing with an issue that I deal with in my life myself with some family members, this really hit home with me. And so I give it 2 sticks up. If you haven't got this one yet, definitely check it out. I know I just spoiled the whole story for you, but I told you I was going to do that. But this is an awesome read. Definitely check it out. So there you have it, folks. My pick of the week, Stealth #1 by Image Comics. And whammo, I'm in a whole different setting. Sorry, folks, but on the video that I was just taping, my sound cut out, and I had already tore down everything. And so this last part of the video is really important. So I'm just going to film in a whole different spot. Of course, I got my bullseye sitting right there. Hope you guys don't mind. So it looks kind of funky going from one setting to the other, which is just only a few feet away. But bottom line is that, like I said, the next part of this video is really important. So those are pretty much my reviews for the week. Again, join me next week when I'll be at the Refuge Coffee House. I'm really appreciative of Keith and Kim, who are the owner and proprietors of the refuge, and they're good enough to let me film there. And I just want to give a shout out to them and let them know how much I appreciate them. I hope that by filming there that we also bless you by bringing some more business into the coffee shop. But thank you very much. But anyway, guys, show up next week. We'll be back live and in living color from the Refuge Coffee House. And so this is the part of the show where I show you something that is not on my pull list. And so this week is very, very special. I'm not going to have a question of the week because this is going to be a little more extended. But this is amazing. So I've got my first act of kindness, and I've never received one of these before. I've heard about them. Of course, I don't publish my address, so I guess that's maybe why I've never received one. And I shouldn't say I've never received one. I did receive one from Southern Comic Geek. He was good enough to send me a couple of books from his collection, but he reached out to me and got my address and sent it to me. This box that was sent to me was actually sent over to Bueller's address because my address wasn't published, and it came from none other than my good friend, Two Gun Pedro. Pew pew! This brother blessed my heart. So just before I get into this, I just want to say, Two Gun, thank you very much. I appreciate you, man. You blessed me beyond belief. I just got to tell you guys, this guy went out and tried to look for things that I don't have. And he basically has told me in no uncertain terms it's kind of hard when I have everything. But he did it. He did it. He got a bunch of stuff that I don't have in my collection, and I just blown away. So he gave me a care package. It was packaged in one of those Spider-Man booth boxes. And I got to tell you, when I opened this thing up, I was just blown away by it. So I'm going to show you what he gave me. And so here is stuff that's not on my pull list. And this is the A-OK from my good friend, Two Gun Pedro. So the first thing, because there were a couple of things I did already have, so I'm going to show you those first. So this is Fall from Grace, number 2, which was Daredevil number 321. This is number 2 in the story. This is a better copy than the one that I have, so that's a score. So thank you very much. Really cool. Next one is Daredevil number 605. And of course, this comes from the Charles Soule run. And this is when the artwork was done by Mike Henderson, who I got to meet at the Washington State SummerCon last year. My copy is signed by him, so now I have a copy that's not signed. This is going directly into my collection. Pretty cool. And then the next one is this connecting cover that came from the 25-year Marvel Knights edition. This is when they did the Marvel Knights story last year. And I didn't have this just until last week. I actually got this from the Frankenstein comic book swap. So now I got 2 copies, which is really cool. But this is one that I didn't even see. It wasn't even on my radar. Normally, all the Daredevil books I normally get, this one I never even saw before. But anyway, I did get this one last week, and I picked up for a couple of bucks. Bueller's one that actually pointed it out to me. But Pedro, thank you. This is an awesome cover. And then everything else I didn't have in my collection. So check this out. So you gave me this Marvel Knights number 1. Now I love Marvel Knights, and this is one that I don't have. I don't have this cover. I have Marvel Knights number 1, but I don't have this cover. Check this out. My favorite Daredevil artist of all time is Joe Quesada. So here's a Marvel Knights number 1, total Quesada artwork, right? That's just beautiful. And then check this out. You can tell the Daredevil that's up here on the top is the same Daredevil that's on this cover, just basically blown up. So it's a larger version of the Daredevil, just him on the cover. Joe Quesada artwork. This is an amazing cover. Man, you completely blessed me with this. This is amazing. This is another one of those books I'm definitely going to have Joe sign when I get to meet him. And again, thank you, buddy. And then the next one, you gave me Marvel Comics, the Daredevil Battling Jack Murdock. Now, I have never read this miniseries. It's one of the few that I haven't read. So this is my first copy of collecting that series. This is the second book in the series. And let's see. Yeah, issue number 2 of 4. Can't wait to get the other issues, but there you go. Now I have my first copy of it. Thank you very much. And then I don't know why I've never had this one, but we got Amazing Spider-Man, Kraven's First Hunt, Part 2, The Webhead Without Fear. So I'm assuming that's Spider-Man in Daredevil's costume. But look at that. That's just a glorious Daredevil cover. And the guy definitely has pulled on my Daredevil heartstrings. And so that's awesome. And then these next books are like special beyond belief because these are things that I probably normally wouldn't be able to get. So he sent me this 3-pack. And this 3-pack is basically comes from the UK. It's what they call a panini pack. And check this out. So it basically has 3 comics packed up in here. And you can see the covers. They have pictures of the covers. There's a card stock on the back that they package it in. But this reminds me of the old 3-packs that we used to get from like Thrifty Drugstore and Kmart when I was a kid. I missed those. Those were, you know, little comic grab bags that were amazing. And so this is how they package them up in the UK. And I thought this was really cool because this is not something I would ever come across out here. And so this is a gem inside of my collection. That's pretty amazing. And then the next is another one that comes from a foreign country. He sent me this one. This one actually comes from Mexico, and he calls it the Bermejo variant, Mexico edition. This is Daredevil number 15. Look at that cover. Just amazing. And this is definitely one I normally wouldn't be able to get out here. One of the things I want to note, if you look down here in the corner, I don't know if the video will capture it, but the cover price is 29 bucks. So for all you guys that are complaining about the fact that we get comic books for $3.99 and $4.99, at least we don't have a $29 cover price for our comic books, but that's what they have in other countries. And but this is another gem that's going into my collection because I normally wouldn't be able to get this. Man, Two Gun, you really have blessed me, but this isn't it. I got more, folks. But wait, folks, there's more. So here's the next one. This is one that I've always wanted. So Wizard came out with issue number 1/2 of the Joe Quesada and Kevin Smith run of Guardian Devil. And so this is like the prequel to the series. I've never read it. I've never had it. I've always wanted it. You got the shiny Wizard logo down here. Artwork by Joe Quesada. And I have always wanted this and have never been able to pick it up. And man, dude, thank you so much. Oh, isn't that amazing? Isn't that gorgeous? Daredevil love, man. I love it. And then this last one just blew my socks off. So I've never had one of the, what do they call it? I've never had one of the Air books. This is one of those books with an error in printing. So this is Daredevil number 12. And on the 4th page of the book, so you have this cover, and then you have page 1, page 2, page 3, and then the 4th page is actually the cover of number 12, and it's the Mary Jane variant of issue number 12. It's that cover, and then it continues from the beginning of the book again, and then continues on. And so this is one of those error printings. Now, Two Gun asked me to research what it's worth. And I'll just tell you right now, Two Gun, I haven't found out how much it's worth yet, but I'll tell you guys what it's worth to me. It's priceless. I've never owned one of the error covers before, and it's priceless for one reason, because he gave it to me. And just absolutely blesses my heart. This one I'm going to get put in a slab. It's going to be in my collection forever. And so no matter how much it's worth, it's priceless to me. And so, dude, Two Gun, thank you so much. You have completely blessed my heart, and beyond anything that I could have ever expected. So, dude, thank you. Well, that's the show, folks. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, sorry for the change of scenery and for having to do this reshoot, but this was important because I've never got an act of kindness before, and that was a pretty awesome one. So thank you very much for tuning in. Make sure you check us out next week. Next Saturday, we'll be back in live and in living color from the Refuge Coffee House. Make sure next Saturday night, the 21st, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, you tune in to Sam's Tangled Web, because the Portland Comics crew is having another roundtable discussion. You don't want to miss it. Anyway, always remember, folks, to support your local comic shop, and always remember, Excelsior.